Okay, Karen Love Lee here, the Power of Self-Evolution, the podcast. And today I am honored, thrilled, ecstatic to have as my guest one of the most incredibly, I'm at a loss for words, incredibly powerful, unstoppable, resilient go-getters on the planet. His name is Steve Viola, but he goes by Max Per Diem. I'll have him explain that to you. But he is a former, still a Navy SEAL, non-active. And I'd like to, so he goes by Master Chief. I'm guessing, do I need to call you Master Chief? But Steve,
no,
Max.
You can call me.
Yeah. Welcome. What can I call you? I'm going to call you Vinny. Yeah.
You can call me Max or you can call me Steve. I go by either. Sometimes I go by Master Chief, but that was in a former life. But that'll definitely get my attention immediately if you call me Master Chief.
Okay, good. So if you're talking too much, I'm going to interject with Master Chief. Zip it.
There you go. That works perfectly.
Okay, so explain number one, Max Per Diem. Just tell us a little bit. Yeah.
So Max Per Diem, most people associate it with when you travel, you get a per diem rate. Mm-hmm. And so when you hear Max Per Diem, you're going to get the most money for that travel rate. Well, that's one application of it. For me, it really resonates in terms of getting the most out of your day. Max Per Diem is exactly that. It's like Cap Per Diem seize a day.
Yes.
Max Per Diem, get the most out of your day. And it's predicated on the fact that no one really knows how much time they have. And that's something that we undervalue a lot is time. And so I want to make the most out of the day and still enjoy it and take those moments where you stop and you smell the roses, watch the sunset or the sunrise, and just make the most out of it.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yes, and I love that because it's so true. If we're only here for a limited amount of time, why not make the absolute best of it while we're here, which I believe every human being deserves and is worth. And so that is so apropos. And now, okay, I want to talk about the Navy SEAL thing. When I met you, of course, I am enthralled by Navy SEALs. I'm not going to lie. To be a Navy, and that's a lot of it is because, number one, it's the male factor for me, but underneath that is this enormous amount of mind power, not just physical, but mind power it takes to achieve Navy SEAL status, right? I'm enthralled by that. I'm inspired by it. Being a mind person obsessed with the human psyche, the unconscious and the subconscious mind, of course, that is going to excite me. And then, okay, so, Navy SEAL, Navy Schmeal, but then you as a human being is really what was a coup d'etat, or the icing on the cake is when I met you, you also had this profound, sensitive human side, this happy, quite frankly, looking at you, you wouldn't go, oh my God, there's Steve, the Navy SEAL, right? It's this, you have this disposition that's light, fun, free, happy, on top of the Navy SEAL thing. What a perfect combination. And by the way, I struggle with the fun, free, happy part. Being a bona fide perfectionist and workaholic, which is just a cover up for me to prove that I'm somebody, that I'm worthy, that I'm not a failure. Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So this Navy SEAL thing, the training that it took, can you just describe we were talking about it earlier before I hit record about the violent training required.
Yeah. So the process is as violent as it has ever been. I went through training in August of '89, and a lot of people were like, rocks were heavier, the water was colder, the sun was hotter, type stuff, right? And we still do it today, kind of tongue in cheek, but the whole discussion was predicated on, has training gotten harder or easier for those trying to go through it? And as I stated earlier, when you and I were talking, it's a very violent process. Mm-hmm. And people go, what does that mean? Are you're subjected to brutality from the instructors? No, not at all. It's the process. It's the cold water. It's the constant going. It's the constant not knowing what the next next event is. And so that creates a very nimble mindset, and it's a high learner capacity that thrives in there. Case in point, one of the guys in my Buds class, I'll never forget him. He was the Southwest Pacific champion, boxing champion. And the instructors love him. I mean, he was the poster boy. He was 6'2", blonde hair, blue eyes, barrel chested, could run a 6-minute mile for 6 miles, could do a mile swim in incredible times. And he ended up quitting the first day of Hell Week. And why?
Wow.
Because it is very intimidating mentally and physically, and that cold water, it definitely it's a reality check. So the process is still as violent as it has ever been. It will always be there because that's a rite of passage to be a Navy SEAL.
Yes. Okay, I heard, is this true? You have to be willing to risk drowning. Where you do an exercise?
That is a hyper inflation of someone's idea. No one has to be accepting of drowning. What I think people misunderstand is it's the crawl, walk, run syndrome, or thing that we do in the teams, and it's not necessarily a syndrome. It's more of how we do business. So the crawl, walk, run is you've got to get comfortable in the water, and then you're gonna walk, which means they're gonna put a little bit more stress on you in different types of capacities, which is going down and doing underwater knot tying at 15 feet. And just it's a breath hold, right? So you've got to get comfortable. That's the walk. And then the run is where we do the drown proofing exercise. And that stems from our forefathers in Vietnam who, if captured, faced the probability of being tied up and thrown over the side and drowning. So if anything, Navy SEALs are like two things. They're like Boy Scouts who are always prepared, and they're professional athletes who carry guns. And that's really what we do is we prepare for everything. And the drowning part is just being comfortable in the water. Yes, guys have come close to it, and unfortunately some guys have actually drowned in that, but it's a well-supervised, well
controlled,
monitored program.
Yeah.
It's a well-monitored program for guys to get comfortable in the water. And that's where a lot of guys quit, is they're not comfortable in the water. It's like, this isn't for me, you got to go.
But, okay, when I heard you speak, though, this is where you almost quit. Isn't it true? You said
so. There was a couple times where I almost quit. So.
Okay.
Yeah, the one that you heard me talk about, it was drowning. It was Hell Week, and a buddy of mine, we went out and we were doing a surf check. And what does that mean? It was second day of Hell Week. It's the dark of night. It's here in Coronado. And we were a winter class. It was November 11th, and it was a very cold night. And what does surf check mean? It means me and my swim buddy go out, and I have a thermometer, and we lay in the water chest to neck deep, and we just hold the thermometer for 10 minutes. Then we come out and we show the instructor what the water temperature is, because back then we didn't have like all the surf reports they do. So we come in and I show them the water temperature. It's 56 degrees. And mind you, all I have on are just my camis and a hat.
Oh, my God.
And a little life jacket, right? So I am freezing. And we're running back to the campfire where everybody's waiting, and they're getting everybody nice and warm and toasty. And as we're approaching the campfire to warm up, the instructor goes, "All right, everybody, hit the surf." And I'm like, F that, man. I just was out there for 10 minutes. Can I get a reprieve on that? And he's like, absolutely not, Viola. Get in the water. And I was like, you know what? I quit. And one of my really good buddies, Jim looks at me and he goes, no, you're not quitting. You're coming with me. I go, okay, I'm not quitting.
Okay, but you actually said the words, I quit.
Oh yeah, I was
God.
done. I was just mentally and physically exhausted. And I was like, I quit. And Jim goes, no, you're not. You're coming with me. I go, all right. Completely just, how do I say, very easily influenced at this point. And so we go out there and we interlock arms and we sit out there and we do the surf conditioning. And then we come back in, and after it was all said and done, I asked Jim later, I go, why did you do that? He goes, because I didn't want to be on the end and I didn't want to be alone.
Oh my God. Yeah, he was selfish. Because you're thinking, oh, he's there for me, but it was really he was there for him. But isn't that so true? Right. Take care of
but
yourself
you know what?
first. Yeah.
Yeah, but it just he was actually there for himself, but that natural byproduct
Yep.
was helping me.
Exactly.
Because we all get there, and that's one of the main things I was talking about earlier. Max per diem is, we think we can do things by ourselves, but we can't. Life will
That's
fool
right.
you and tempt you. I can do it myself. Well, you can't. You're going to need help somewhere along the way, and that was it was a very good incident for me to be illuminated on that.
Yeah, and so looking back, so there was several times you were, wanting to quit, but what had you not quit overall? What was it that kept you
What do
in
you
there?
mean?
In
Like,
terms of, you said there were several times that you thought about quitting. So at that time, yeah, can you put it to one, basic fundamental thing that we could learn from, possibly?
Well, it's one of my mantras. Is there's two ways of doing something: the right way and again. And if you're not going to do it the right way, you're going to get an opportunity to do it again if you want that opportunity. And it just goes back to, I think you and I talked earlier about your fundamental program.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to quit? Am I going to make this a habit of quitting? Am I going to do this? I mean, we have an opportunity. We as human beings have an opportunity to get to do things. You don't have to do anything.
Right.
So you get to do this. And for me, it just came down to that. There's two ways of doing something: the right way and again. And my whole life is replete with opportunities of doing it again. Case in point, I got all the way to the end of the diving phase in BUD/S training, right, which is a SEAL training.
Yeah.
And I got all the way to the end, and I didn't tread water well. I'm a small guy. I'm short, and I put the all in small and the stout in clout. And
Good one. Yeah.
And so I'm very dense, and I sink. And one of the things you have to do is tread water with your hands out of the water with these steel twin tanks, these twin 80 tanks on your back. And
No way.
bends.
No way.
Yeah, and for a little guy like me, it just was hard. But it was more mental than it was physical. So they gave me 3 opportunities, and I failed all 3 of them. So they said, hey, we're going to kick you out of the program. And I was like, please don't. I will get better. I'll get stronger. And they said, okay, we'll give you another chance. So they rolled me back to the next class. And, that little pause allowed me to recalibrate my brain. And then I passed it. And I go, why was that such a mental block? So to my point, there's 2 ways of doing something: the right way and again. I finally did it the right way, so I didn't have to do it again. And then the right way, just instills those good habits to where you can be able to just manifest more good things from it.
Okay, but I'm going to dig deep here. That's what I'm known for. So I want you to go back for a moment. And they were going to kick you out, and you said, no, give me another chance. So can you just think back and go, what was it possibly that had you say no, give me another chance, and go back and ace it?
I think it's just the amount of time invested. From that, the economy of motion and the economy of time. I believe it was just that emotional investment, the time invested. And then more to your point, it's just I had to prove it to myself that I could do it.
Okay. Yes.
They weren't asking me to do anything that the instructors had not already done, and my classmates had not already done. I was like, so the issue clearly lied with me. So I had to reframe it and say, okay, what am I doing wrong? Why am I being so stubborn? I need to be more fluid in my thinking and stuff like that. So it helped me shape a different me. So I guess I just wanted that second chance to say, yes, I am worthy of this and I can do it.
Okay, so let's think about this. In retrospect, there was some higher knowing or voice possibly that believed you could do it, that you were getting in your own way at some level. Could we say that?
Yep.
Yes.
Yo, spot on assessment. You're absolutely right, Karen. That's exactly right. I was getting in my own way.
Uh-huh. And so you had the opportunity. It's always in the no that wakes us up in the crisis, the human condition. Mm-hmm.
Well said. Yes, exactly. It's that wake-up call.
Yep.
It's like, hey, dummy, you're not going to make it if you don't change the way you're doing something. That's absolutely beautiful. Yes, I agree with that.
Okay, so that's what I want my listeners to get here. It's some in retrospect. It's always in retrospect, but we want to take that with us right now into the future, right? It's the present into the future of it really was mind over matter. But what knocked you into consciousness was, guess what? Loss. You almost lost everything you had invested, your time, your energy, your anguish, your torment, doing all these exercises. It almost went away in an instant, and you were smart enough and conscious enough to go, wait a minute, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. You have put in so much time, right?
Yeah.
That at some level, but you did know there was something in you that just even an atom's worth believed you could do it. Would you agree?
Oh, yes. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Okay, that's what we want, is that human beings have to get in touch with when all is said and done and they're feeling like they want to quit or give up or not keep going for their dreams or whatever their goals, their desires, whatever they're going for, to remember to look and go, wait, there is, at some level, I know that I have it in me, even just a little bit. Even just a little bit is enough. Does that resonate with you?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's like, yes, you're all over it. And to your point, what I did is I didn't overthink it, which was what I was doing. I was way over analyzing. I was, my self-talk wasn't what it should be. And I had a defeatist attitude at that point and just wasn't helping myself mentally or psychologically in terms of how am I going to prepare for this. I'm physically ready for it. I just wasn't mentally ready for it. So I guess for me, what helped me is I did an introspective look and saying, okay, you are capable. All these people have done it. The instructors have done it. You can do it. So that modicum of hope in that others have accomplished it help stoke the spark that I had as saying you can do this. But it goes back to what I was telling you earlier, is just the self-talk wasn't there. And I wasn't really honest with myself in terms of hey, am I capable? Can I really do this? And I just had doubt, and I stopped doubting. And one of my favorite sayings is take time to deliberate, but when the time for action comes, stop thinking and go in. And that's exactly what I did. I just stopped thinking. I just went in and did it. So I just disconnected. It was, I'm not going to lie, it was a painful event.
Yep.
Physically painful.
Oh my God, yeah.
But I just turned it off and said, I'm just going to ignore the pain and go through it.
Okay, so that wake-up call had you readjust your thinking and then to not think. So that's two things, right? But now think back. So
a little bit of a paradox there, but yeah exactly.
So your attitude when you were failing, so to speak, your attitude was what? Do you remember? Can you articulate it? Your attitude was...
Well, at first you think it's the end of the world. You're like, oh man, that's it. And well, let me back up. I didn't have any aspirations growing up or anything to be a Navy SEAL or to do anything in that terms of spectacular. But I was just like, wow, you're done. Training's over. Now what? And that was a microsecond, nanosecond.
Yeah.
And I thought of that. But I ended up just saying, okay, you know what? They're giving me another opportunity. Don't blow it. And what I've learned is there's nothing more beautiful, especially in this community, in the special operations community, there's nothing more beautiful than a second chance because you don't always get it. Wow. And that's why we always train to get those second, third, fourth chances out of the way. So when it comes to game time, you have to have it perfect, fundamentally perfect. So for me, it allowed me that opportunity to take a mental break, reevaluate, and then re-engage.
Beautiful. So I also want to talk about this fear of loss. I mean, that fear of loss is a huge motivator. In other words, for that split second you said, oh, it's over. I'm out. That fear was like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, it's just that we all have it as humans.
Yes.
Whether we tap into it or not is that's definitely a personal choice that people have. Is like, oh no, I am not going down like this. This is not how I'm going out. And it's that dogged determination and saying, I am going to crush this, and here's how I'm going to go about it.
Yeah, so many things had to happen, but here's where we can take fear and use it for good and not evil. And it was.
Yes.
It was an unconscious, subconscious phenomenon. Then, but you also, let's go to this self-talk. This is huge, right? This self-reflection, you and I both agree, bar none, that it starts within self first and foremost. That to self-reflect, to reevaluate self, how I'm thinking, what is my game plan, but within me, without blaming myself or any one or thing outside of me. Does that make sense?
Sort of. Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, meaning it's all about you, the self-talk that you then took the fullest of responsibility to get your head straight.
Yes, yeah. Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, I was responsible and accountable for my actions and my thoughts. So, yes, absolutely spot on.
And you were willing to go out on a limb and say, no, give me another chance.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It wasn't, I knew I could do it.
Yep.
I just didn't know how I was going to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's where I had to kind of figure it out, is how do I go about it?
But isn't it that indomitable will of knowing you have it in you that takes us the farthest? I think so.
Yeah, well, you hit on a really good point I'd like to circle back to.
Yes.
Is fear.
Yes.
I think for me, all disciplines begin with faith. And what does that mean? It means faith in your instructor, faith in your training, faith in all this stuff, or fear. Are you coming from fear or faith? So you've got to be able to make a decision. I'm basing this out of faith or out of fear. And but regardless of either one you choose, some people may sit back and say, well, that was just foolish. Either way, if you're coming from a fear-based mentality and say, well, I didn't do it because of this, people look back and, well, that was foolish. You could have easily done that. Or, hey, I based it on faith and faith in my instructor, faith in the guy next to me, faith in the training. Well, that was foolish. You could have been injured or harmed. So I think a lot of it just really comes down to making that decision. And ultimately it comes down to the person saying, am I coming from a position of fear, or am I coming from a position of faith or trusting in this process, so to speak? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, let's talk about this training thing. I've been an athlete my whole life. I've been an equestrian since I was 7, but I have this mindset of training. And would you agree that the training is probably the pinnacle, most pivotal part, but the hardest part?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it goes back to what we talked about earlier, the crawl, walk, run approach. And you went in with full faith or trust in your instructors and the process. Yeah. And anyone who starts that is starting it with that discipline of hey, I'm going to be a good dancer, I'm going to be a good equestrian, I'm going to be a good Navy SEAL. But all disciplines start in that faith aspect, and I think it's just making up your mind and doing it. And it goes back to what you said earlier before we started recording, was just it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. It's not puppy dogs and cupcakes and rainbows. There's going to be days where it sucks, and you've got to be able to, again, fall back, reassess, and then re-engage of how to approach it in a more intelligent manner.
Yeah. Now so I'm all about childhood. Now so let's look at your childhood, and let's go back to your childhood. When you were a little boy, did you think that you had this mentality to train and to do things? Were you self-motivated as a little kid? And I mean young, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Yeah,
well, my whole thing was predicated on having fun.
Oh,
because
okay.
Fun is one of the best things to have. And, I was never the smartest kid, but I was always the funnest kid. And, it's the old I aim to misbehave type stuff, and that mischievous approach to stuff. But it wasn't in a nefarious type of a way. It was just like, hey, this is a good time. I mean, life was meant to be to have a good time, to be reveled, not depressed about it, like, oh, I gotta go do this, I gotta. So I guess my whole wiring from a young age was just approach it with the attitude of have a good time with it, and just enjoy it. And for me, I think, and again, it's been my experience, I think that some people just overthink it, and they're raised in an environment that may not always be conducive to positive outcomes. And as you grow to be an adult, I don't think you have to be stuck in those things, because it is hard to rewire yourself or reprogram yourself. But as long as you're conscious, like, you know what, my mom used to do that, or my dad used to do that, and I never liked it. I want to change. Mm-hmm. So you just got to be, again, that introspective look and just saying, this isn't a good version of me. I want to make myself a better version. Does that make sense to what you were talking about? Or
yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting. I'm fascinated because I didn't grow up with like, oh, have fun. No, that was never an option. You know, I came from depression, and that was all within myself. I also believe it had to do with my lineage, because I do believe we pick up the energy. And it's yes, and belief systems are transferred down from generation to generation, and that's based on Dr. Bruce Lipton's work. He's a cell biologist, but it doesn't matter. Intuitively, I know that I came from a very highly educated line of geniuses on my dad's side, but Asian, right? Chinese, very stoic, very achievement-oriented. Even though my parents never demanded it, it was in our DNA, if you will, but it was in our energy field. And
yeah, I agree. Yeah. You pick up on that.
Yes.
Kids are very, very sensitive to those energies around them. Totally agree with you.
Yes, and so it's interesting, if you could look at your parents, was there one parent who was kind of freewheeling, fun, had this lighthearted life, you know, be fun and free, or be happy, fun, enjoy life? Did you have?
Oh yeah, that was my dad. You know, but my dad never grew up, and you know, I my dad was a jerk, to be abundantly clear.
Yeah.
But I still loved him because he was my dad.
Right.
And he's the only one I got, but. Yeah, he was 17. His mentality was that of a 17-year-old, and so here he is, you know, as my dad. I'm dealing with a teenager, and it was definitely my dad and my mom too. My mom, though, she was more of like a David Letterman type of humor. She was very, you didn't know if she was serious or she was or being funny, but she always held things in reserve to surprise us. And my mom was fantastic about that. She was, she's the one really, you know, after my parents divorced when I was in the third grade, she's the one that really said, hey, son, you can do whatever you want. And I'll never forget, she put up on the refrigerator the potential life earnings by education. And I still have that little clipping in one of my little boxes that motivated me to get my master's degree, because she's like, hey, you can do this, but you have got to decide that you're going to do this. So my mom was a huge impact in that capacity.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, so how old were you when she said that to you?
I want to say, let's see, I think the 6th grade or 7th grade.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So I don't know what age that is. What is that?
Well, it's 11 or 12, isn't it? Like 11 or 12. So this supports my whole premise, is who we are today has everything to do with who we were, 8 and under, ultimately 19 years old and under. In other words, all the things that we deal with impact us in such a way, whether good or bad, but you did have some very positive imprinting or influences, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. I think early on I did, for sure. I mean, that's not to say there wasn't some negative ones as
of course.
Well, but it goes back to your point earlier of picking up on that vibe, and it just didn't resonate with me. I was like, man, I'm not at home with this negative, because my mom can be super negative at times, or defeatist, and that just stems from her childhood and then her life decisions. And then the paradox is she's such a great encourager. And one thing that I've learned is correction is good, but encouragement is better.
Bingo.
And my mom had such a really good knack at correcting me, but yet encouraging me at the same time without being overly negatively impacted. Now, if you ask my sister, and who I love to death, we're in the same room, but we're having two different experiences with that type of approach. Isn't that interesting?
It is. And I believe it's because our personality traits, and how we listen, like how we actually interpret the information. So that's what's so fascinating. Yeah. Yes. In other words, it's our perceptions. We both can go to the same movie and I can walk out and go, okay, that was the stupidest thing ever, like Titanic, because it was so fake, like the whole, okay. and everyone else was like, oh, Titanic, it was the best movie. It's like, oh my God, are you kidding? Right? But it's the same movie. Why is my perception like, okay, like the ship is sinking and you're out there, in the front of the ship, like spreading your arms like you're flying. Okay, no, you'd be running for cover. Like seriously, or like the lifeboat. Like where is the the SOS ring in my life jacket?
Isn't that called dramatic irony?
I don't know.
It's coming, but the characters don't know it's coming.
Okay,
right?
Well, I just thought it was crap on a stick. So it's just I say that because it's we can go into the same restaurant and have the same dish and one person loves it and the other person hates it. This is the power of perception, how we interpret things, how we perceive it, how it lands for us based on the filters and how we're looking at life. You see, so that supports what you just said about your sister. But what we know is you heard encouragement to a certain degree from your mother.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, and maybe your sister missed that, and I can relate.
Oh, yeah, the conversations we have now as adults, she's like, I don't remember it that way. I go, well, I sure as hell don't remember it the way you're putting it out. So you're right. Your assessment is spot on with the filters. And I think you said something very, very sharp, is the ability to listen and really understand what's going on. And then the processor that we use. I kid people that I'm the old, the 868 processor. I'm not even a Pentium processor right now because it takes me a little longer.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so you're saying you're not the sharpest tool in the shed, but you actually get the job done.
Yeah, well, it's because I take the opportunity to listen and really understand and then ask the right questions. And, some people, and I'm sure you've experienced, they want to show that they're the smartest person in the room by the questions that they ask.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, okay, got it. And they may ask a question that somebody didn't want to ask or didn't have the courage to ask, but it answered the question. But my point is you learn a lot by asking the right questions. Like this whole talk that you and I have had, you're asking all the right questions. I love it.
Well, thank you. And because I do love, I'm extremely curious. So now the next question is, this Navy SEAL thing is fantastic. And then when you were a little boy, what were your dreams? What were you wanting to do with your life, if anything?
Well, I think I wanted to be, I know I did. I wanted to be a fireman, and I wanted to be an astronaut. And part of that was because I saw Star Trek, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I want to do that. He's an astronaut, right?
Yes.
And not really realizing it was a TV show, science fiction. And then my uncle and my brother were firemen, and they were just cool. They made good money. They had time off. Everybody loves to see them coming, even if they're chopping the door down while the house is on fire. They're just happy to see you.
Yeah, so true. So true. Okay, so how old were you when you said, I want to be a fireman or an astronaut? Do you remember how old you were about?
I want to say probably the second grade or the first grade. And the reason I do that is because my benchmarks, my parents got divorced when I was in the third grade. And prior to that, our house that we were living in caught on fire. And my uncle came and rescued me. He was a fire chief at one of the local fire stations, literally about 5 blocks away from our house. And I was left in the house. No, it wasn't an oversight. It's just everybody ran out, and they're like, "Where's Steve?" And my uncle runs in,
oh my God,
burning building, and pulls me out. And I'm like, "What's up, everybody? This is fun, It's a big birthday cake." And so I think that experience of him saving my life really cemented my affection and endearment towards the firefighter.
Okay, hang on. We're on to something. This is miraculous. So you're okay. No, stay with me here. Just humor me for a moment. So you're how old? Like first? That's 6. No, first grade is first is about 6, 7, and 8 years old. Isn't that right?
Yes.
So when the fire happened, how old were you?
I want to say I was first grade.
Yeah, so that's 6 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, so the human brain, about 6 to 9 years old, this is where analytical, critical thinking comes in. The brain now has the ability to be analytical and critical. Isn't that interesting? And
I
then,
didn't know.
yes,
Okay.
that's based on brain science. Okay, so then think about this. Your uncle comes and rescues you, and you're thinking, ooh, fun. Do you remember thinking to yourself or saying something to yourself in 6-year-old language? Like, oh, I want this? Do you
I
remember?
can't recall right now, but I'm sure if I was to think about it, I might remember something. I just remember, all I really remember is I was woken up and it was smoky. It was just gray, and there's my uncle's face looking at me. Hey, are you all right? Are you all right? And then he picks me up and puts me over his shoulder and runs out of the house. And I was like, still rubbing my eyes, like, what was that all about?
Oh,
So
wow.
I don't know that I really had an idea what was going on. And my grandmother and my mom were all over me, tending to me, making sure I wasn't injured or anything. And my uncle, he was awesome. He was just like, yeah, he'll be all right. And he lights a cigarette, right? And he's like, he'll be okay.
Oh, my God.
Just that old school machismo stuff, and just took assessment stuff and went on. But I don't know that I really did. I was just happy.
Yes,
to be around my
but
family.
Isn't this interesting? This supports everything I believe. Like the choices we make, the decisions we make, indirectly or directly, form who we are today. So here it is. Like you've never shared this with me, this part, but he's the fire chief, and you're now Master Chief, Navy SEAL Master Chief.
Oh my God! I just got chills. Yeah, You're absolutely right. I never thought of it in the context.
Exactly. And you're 6. Like at 6 years old, I knew I had to be a perfectionist to cope with my life, and I had to be an overachiever to have any chance. This is what I believed, to have any chance to be noticed by my mommy. And at 6, I knew I had to be strategic. It didn't work. That's another podcast and a series of podcasts, hence this podcast and overall. But the point is, right, now, isn't it interesting? You're now the Master Chief, Navy SEALs. What do Navy SEALs do? What are they for? What do you guys what's your job?
So we're that little thing on the wall that says, in case of war, break glass. And,
Bingo.
Yeah, so we're those guys that you put in for surgical type of strikes. We're not a blunt instrument that's going to wreak havoc. Cutting a huge swath. We're like a scalpel, and that goes in and removes bad things.
Okay, yeah, right. But you're kind of like the epitome of rescue. The epitome.
Oh yeah.
Right,
yeah,
of survival.
Just like that cheesy movie. Hey, we're Navy SEALs. We're here to get you out. But,
but isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I've never thought in those terms. We've made good progress today, Karen.
Oh well, thank you.
No, that's good. No, I thank you for revealing that to me, and I've never really thought of it in that capacity. But I think you're onto something. I really do. Yes,
because who you associated yourself with absolutely to this day makes you who you are. I absolutely, without question, believe that. And there you go, saying the fire chief saved you. Yeah, he was your uncle, but you're the Master Chief who, quote unquote, saves people in danger.
Wow, you're making me smile right now, and you're making my heart smile. I never really thought of it like that. Thank you for revealing that to me. That's great.
Yes, and here's why we need to know this, because if we can go back to childhood and tap into our dreams and desires and then reformulate and train the crap out of our brains, it can happen. Now, you just happen to have a series of circumstances and the personality, by the way, to have you be who you are, to succeed at becoming Master Chief Navy SEAL. And that's something, so this is the big aha, is we didn't necessarily have to have that, but if you did, and you skirted out on that from childhood, it would actually be easier to go accomplish it today. I'm just saying that. But if it wasn't there, or it was buried, we could actually go back and train for it again because of the capacity for the brain to grow until death and retrain the brain.
So let me make sure I'm understanding you. You're
Yeah.
saying if I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Most likely not, no.
And you know what? I agree with you because one of my other passions is cooking, and one of my other uncles he was a master chef, and he was all self-taught. He went to a couple culinary schools, but I mean, he would go in and he would make these little swan cream puffs in like 2 hours. Here, I'm going to make these cream puffs. Done. Hey, I'm going to make this bolognese stuff.
That's adorable.
So,
yeah.
Well, it really inspired me to be a cook. So a lot of what I do is I was a chef apprentice for 2 years. So to your point, I was on that path of becoming a culinary expert, or a master chef.
Yes.
And and I was interested. And my other uncle was a chemist, and I was fascinated by biology. I wanted to go be a doctor and pre-med and all this other stuff, but I just didn't have the aptitude for it. And so you are absolutely spot on with your assessment, saying that had I not had that significant emotional event that set into sequence of these other events that I fell into, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at today. I've never really thought of it in those terms, but I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so what ends up happening, right, with humanity is, so what happens is, then let's just say you wanted to be a fireman or an astronaut, and it never happened because everything else didn't fall into place, and then you quit or whatever happened. So what happens then is that human being kind of has these regrets that are shrouded over, and they never accomplish it, but there's always this, oh, I wish I had done it when I was a kid. I wanted to. I know you know people who've said that.
Oh, yeah, I'm dealing with a kid right now who went through BUD/S when he was 19, right, the SEAL training, and he quit the second day of Hell Week, and he wants to go back. He's 27 now. He's in the fleet, which is the Navy fleet as opposed to the specialized SEALs units. And I'm probing this kid, saying, hey, what do you got under the hood? How do you know you're not gonna do the exact same thing you did when you were 19? And he's asked me to write a letter of recommendation and see if I can pull some strings and this and not that a retired SEAL Master Chief has a whole lot of strings to pull, but just be able to guide and influence him in a manner that's gonna help serve him and the SEAL teams.
Oh my God. Okay, this is fascinating. This is why I do the work that I do. So can I tell you my sense of the situation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I think if he quit at 19 and he doesn't do the unconscious, subconscious healing work that needs to be done from childhood, okay, he's going to quit again, almost guaranteed. In other words, the chances of him fulfilling upon it this time are very slim.
So how do you do that? Going back to that, how do you do that conscious, subconscious work?
Yes. So what I do is I actually consciously go back into the subconscious and unconscious mind with my clients, and we find out exactly what happened and what all the layers that had us believe we didn't deserve it or were not worth it, which ultimately leads up to quitting and not fulfilling upon our greatest passions and desires. So we have to actually go back.
Let me hit pause real quick.
Yeah.
I want to expound on something you just said. When you say not deserving, what does that mean? Meaning, I don't deserve to be happy, or I don't deserve to do this job?
Yes, at some level. See, around 2 years old, 2, 3, 4 years old, a human being has the ability to associate in language and have some type of a consciousness. And so we fundamentally as human beings have to feel this sense of mattering, that we're good enough, that we have the ability to achieve what we want by being worthy or feeling we're enough. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But I mean, that almost sounds like you're setting yourself up for failure in some capacity.
Well, we are, only because of the survival mechanism of the brain. which is the fear trigger. In other words, the brain is designed and was designed early on during the caveman days for survival.
Sure.
Right? So survival. So
okay.
So what we're saying is, and the subconscious mind doesn't care if we're happy or sad. It just cares that we're breathing with a pulse, unless we can consciously override it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. My whole life in the SEAL teams was exactly that. Running towards gunfire, doing dangerous stuff. You have to hit that manual override and say, this, I shouldn't be doing this, but I need to go do it anyway. That natural self-preservation instinct kicks in.
Okay, so how many Navy SEALs try out to be Navy SEALs? Do you have these statistics? This would be fascinating. In general.
Well, so, the numbers will shift in terms of people that attend the class, but I think an easier number to wrap your brain around is only 25% of the people make it through the training.
Right, 25% make it.
Yeah, and that's a conservative 25%.
Yes, but okay, so now that seems like a lot, unless I know exactly how many people.
So, like this last class.
Yeah,
they started with I want to say they started with 110, and they ended up having 25 people make it through for graduation.
Right. Okay. So the 110 is what I feel is even more profound. How many? There are almost 8 billion. Okay. Well, no, sorry. That's in the world. So let's take the U.S. because Navy SEALs are U.S. So we're going to go, there's almost 350, 375 million people in the United States?
Sure. I'll take your net.
Okay. Well, right. And then we just say, how many, right? How old do you have to be a Navy SEAL? 18?
Yeah. Old enough to join the Navy.
Okay.
So
right. So then we're 18. So then we have to factor in other words, according to the population and how many 18-year-old human beings, mostly men, try out, only 110 start the class.
Yeah, it's a huge process to get there now compared to what I went through, because everybody wants to be one now. So, and that's a class that is currently going on day one, and that's not even to say the other 600 that are waiting to cycle through. And of that 25 that made it, I would, and I don't quote me on this, but I want to say that out of that 25, I think there was only 18 originals. So 18 did it literally from start to finish, and then the other guys joined the class somewhere along training where they either had a performance issue, a compassionate issue, or some sort of issue where they had to stop training and then re-engage it later on.
Exactly. So that's my point. The numbers, even if let's just say all 600 get in, that's only 600 people in, let's see, so I'll be generous, in 10 million possible applicants.
Yeah.
Right? Would that be, we could say that. 10
well, yeah.
Okay. Even 1 million, possibilities in the U.S., 18-year-old people, mostly men, okay?
Yeah.
So do you see how small these numbers are? They're radically small. That's my whole point. So I just want to say everything has to line up psychologically in the human psyche, the subconscious, the unconscious, in order to get to where you are and how long you were, serving. Do you see this?
Yeah, you bring up a good point. It reminds me of a book I read. I can't think of the name, but it was called The Swiss Cheese Effect. And, cheese has a lot of holes in it, right?
Yep.
And in order to see from one end of the Swiss cheese to the other, you have to line it up just perfectly. So, you're right. All the stars have to be in alignment, right mentality, right physical attributes, and then obviously the desire. So, you're absolutely right.
Right. So giving yourself so much credit for what it took for you to get here. Now, that's going to sound pretty depressing for most people, right? To go, oh, crap, I didn't want to be a fireman when I was 6. I wasn't rescued by my uncle, the fire chief. So no wonder I'm a loser.
But it goes, you know what? I think a lot of it goes back to self-talk.
Yes.
What we're constantly exposed to, and it's just breaking away. I don't surround myself with people that are just Debbie Downers or just negative speaks. And I don't think that you are either.
No.
And that's not to say that I don't. My whole mission in life is to make people a better version of themselves. So
yes,
I recharge myself with people like you and Jonah White and Greg Reed and all these positive, like-minded stuff, so we can go out in the world and contribute. And that's that I'm some magnanimous person, but just, hey, I think I have something to offer in a positive light. Let's go do it. And
yes,
I just want people to understand that it's okay to have those moments of depression, doubt, and fear. We all get them. That's part of being human. It's just a matter of making a choice of not staying there. And
exactly.
To your point, some of us are programmed that way to just do that circular logic, where you're just trapped in that circular logic. And it's people like you and I that can offer opportunities for people to break that cycle. Does that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense. And so I do want to know the flip side of it, right? So for you to have made those decisions that got you to where you are today, I only bring that up because it goes both ways. So really,
sure. Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
I agree with you.
So you made some really positive decisions, but what stops us, here it is. What stops us at 19, this young man you're talking about who quit, right, the Navy SEALs, at 19, I am going to assert that what stopped him, it was something before age 8 that happened that stopped him then is the same thing that stopped him at 19. Do you see this? And
yeah, there's a pattern.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes, there is a pattern, and that's what stops us. So if we want to be a better version, and I not say just the best version of ourselves in this lifetime, right, is to understand what actually stops us as opposed to what.
Agreed.
Yes.
Yep.
Right?
And, you're absolutely right. That way you don't have to relive it. And
yes.
That's what people do. They keep reliving that 8-year-old self.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. Yes.
Isn't that incredible? So, but this is where it can work. So I want to just make sure everyone knows that just because they didn't have this profound experience like you did, it's okay, because you can actually go back and have the experience now, no matter how old you are, because the brain has the ability to continuously grow and make brand new associations until death, but it is a conscious choice.
Yes,
You
I
understand
totally
that?
agree with you.
Yes.
Yep.
That's what would have us succeed at whatever we consciously say we desire most. In other words, you were saying, right now, what is it for me? Like, what am I working on? What are you working on that right now it feels like, which direction am I going? And then you get stopped, and then you pivot, and then you go, and then, like the little robot meet, and hits the door. And then it pivots and then it and hits the next door.
Those little robo things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So life feels like that. So what I'm saying is, the great news is we can go back, and all the power lies, from my point of view, of going back to early childhood to see what stopped us then, to heal that. And that's what would free us up actually today, no matter how old we are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you will, and you're absolutely right. But a lot of people don't want to do that. Some
Yes.
people, I think, are happy being miserable.
Bingo.
And I think they're happy with that negative perspective on things. It'll never work. I call them Eeyores, and we've all had our Eeyores in our life where it's like, it'll never work, and it's like, bro, man, you're draining my energy.
Yeah.
You're harshing my buzz. You're disturbing my calm. Whatever it is you want to assign to that. But yeah, and it's just like, all right, that is a choice, and you hit the nail on the head. It's a matter of positively identifying what is the malfunction, or what is the train of thought that keeps derailing me into different directions, and then just identifying it, dealing with it, and then making the like you said, those conscious choices to get beyond it.
Yes, and then here's the thing: we have to actually train the brain for it. But we're
yes,
there's
agreed.
training.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, it goes back to your point. Emmanuel O'Brien, Navy SEAL training is exactly that.
Yes.
No person in their right mind is going to run towards a gunfight. No person in their right mind is going to put themselves in harm's way or expose themselves to dangerous situation. You literally have to hit that manual override.
Yeah.
Immaterial of what you were when you were 8 years old, as an 18 to 28-year-old, while you're doing the training, you have to be right there in that moment, and you have to pay attention. And so, yeah, I agree with you. It is a matter of doing the work, and a lot of people just don't want to put the work in.
Yeah, exactly. But then, okay, you don't have to, but then you get what you get, and you don't get what you want.
Yes, beautifully said. Absolutely agree.
Uh-huh. And so now I know enough about you to see exactly why you were able to endure and persevere and fulfill upon Navy SEAL ship, if you will, right, to where you are today. Do you understand?
Well, I hope you still like me after knowing.
I know, right? It's like, oh my God, please. Okay. All right. Check Steve off the list. Now, are you crazy? This has me have even greater respect in terms of what it took for you to continue going, because it inspires me to hear you speak about what you went through and the hardest times. I want to hear about the hard times, not the cheery good times. So when I know that you were in a fire as a little boy, you almost died, but you were able to turn that around into, oh, what happened? Ooh, fun. Okay. Yay. I was rescued. Yeah. You see that?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then it completely had you. So now I know without question, when you say you want to make a difference in the world and you're here to be of service, and you have been of service to the nth degree, that you really mean it. Does that make sense? Like, I know that your part of wanting to make a difference in people's lives comes from being surrounded by firemen, by people.
That's true.
Yeah. Right.
Well, and it goes to the fundamental point of, I don't want to just talk about it. I want to be about it.
Yes.
And I don't have to be at the center of it, but you and I were talking earlier. We're all equal until we compete.
Yes.
And some people they're shocked by that. Well, what does that mean? I'm offended. Well, it's not meant to offend. What it means is people bring different things to the game. And so you've got to capitalize or leverage that in a positive manner to where, hey, when they compete, they're good at X. And you know what? I need X right here for this situation. Or when they compete, they're good at Y. Well, guess what? I'm going to put Y right here. So whatever that variable is people just need to be more mindful of it and play to your strengths, but train to your weakness as well. And people want to overlook the weakness, and they want to overlook all those insecurities, and we all have them. It's just a matter of how we deal with them. And you're excellent at framing the problem and then approaching it in a manner that's going to be a positive outcome for those that choose to actually do it.
Oh my God. Yeah. I don't really like to lose. I'll be honest with you. Ha ha ha. However, I'm not going to lie, but you know what? Go back to this. Say that again about weaknesses. Train for your weaknesses. Say that again. That was brilliant.
So, we play to, you should play to your strengths, but train to your weakness. So, like a weightlifter. Hey, I got skinny calves. Well, what are you going to do about it? You look great from the knee up. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger is a perfect example of that. If you look, he even says that in his book. Hey, I had really small calves, so all the pictures you see of me in the younger days, I'm standing in water, or all the pictures are from the knee up. So he knew his strengths and he knew his weaknesses, but then he trained to get his calves better. And people are the same way. Hey, I'm not good at, I'm an introvert. I'm not good at public speaking. All right, well then go to a Toastmasters, get exposed to that, and see if it's for you. Or, hey, I'm not really good at math. Okay, well, I'm not asking you to be good at math. I'm asking you to be able to contribute to the team or to the effort of what we're trying to achieve here that's going to benefit everybody and give you that fulfillment and that purpose that people so want to be a part of.
Oh, my God. Okay, I am like so thrilled with this train to your weaknesses. I know. I'm sorry.
No. But what you're good at and what you're brilliant at, Karen, is that you see these, what's unknown to people are they're blocking these doors.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And you open those doors And then when you open the door, now there's hallways. Which hallway do I hit? I don't know. Ultimately it's your choice. But what you afford people is that opportunity to go in there and make that decision. And there's no secret password. There's no nothing. It's just a matter of putting in the time to open that door and to remove those obstacles.
Yeah, and okay, so in the name of evolving the self, Steve, what's the one last thing that you in your message that you'd like to share?
Man, I don't know. One last thing, I would just say, be honest with yourself.
Yeah,
and if you're not honest with yourself, you're not going to be honest with others.
Uh-huh.
And hey, if you're honest on all fronts, you're going to make a better version of yourself. And you may not like the ugly truth, but guess what? You can change it. You have, as long as there's breath in your body, until your last breath, you can change how things are. But you've got to want to be able to change, and you've got to be able to roll out of bed every day and say, hey, I'm gonna do this. And that's like I was telling you earlier about max per diem. If you want to be a jerk all day, fine. Max out your day of being a jerk. You know what I mean? It just, because we all run into them, and we've been them. Where we're like, God, that guy was a jerk at the checkout counter, or that lady cut me off in the car. It's like, maybe they have diarrhea and they got to go to the bathroom really bad. I don't know.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. But I love what you just said. Yeah, if you want to be a jerk, if you want to be a jerk, yeah, go ahead and max out your day as a jerk and see how that goes for you.
Yeah, why not? Go full tilt, see what happens.
But yeah, and then I'm going to say that, don't talk to me, talk to the hands, I'm out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to hang around you. You're the last person I want to hang around. Even if you're the last person on earth. No, thank you. I'd rather be alone. You see the cost of that? It pushes people away. That's what we want to say. Mm-hmm.
And people in this world of I, me, mine.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't take a step back and seeing how their behavior affects others. The two unpopular words in our society right now are responsibility and accountability. Like, who's responsible? You are for your own action. But it just goes back to having that honest talk with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm a jerk, and I know I'm a jerk, and I don't know how to get out of the cycle. Go talk to Karen. She'll help you out of your jerkness.
And I won't hesitate to use weaponry. Weaponry. Yeah. Is that even a word? Right. And oh my God, thank you for that. And so from my point of view, I have to say the only reason why, because you hit on the most genius points ever, the only reason why I am still alive today by not killing myself through suicide, right, which is my life of suicidal tendencies, was because of me making the choice to understand me. In other words, I took the fullest of responsibility and held myself accountable for what wasn't working in my life by looking for the things I couldn't see, the things I didn't know to look for. I looked for the missings. I trained for my weaknesses, Steve. I trained for my weaknesses, like you said.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. And I'm happy that you're still here with us. I truly am. And some people don't have either, they chemically, like there's a chemical imbalance that drives them to a suicide or negative thinking, and then there's the psychological, and then there's just the overall, hey, I don't have the will anymore, Yes. So I'm happy that you're still here with us, and I'm glad that you did that introspective look and chose the hard road. In terms of making yourself better, and you're giving back and in such a positive way. Thank you, Karen.
Oh my God, thank you so much. And I just want to say the number one cause of suicide is untreated depression. I'm just going to say it's depression. So actually,
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
Right, and so that's another whole conversation. But just to point out your brilliance and your genius is responsibility and accountability. I couldn't blame anyone else anymore. I couldn't blame the world. I couldn't blame the president. I couldn't blame anything outside of myself. It's when I took full responsibility to see what I was capable of and how I was sabotaging myself. That's where it took a turn for the best. And I want to say that that's what it's about, is evolving the self to really own our power. Would you agree with that? Yes. And that's what you're saying is right.
You got to own it, man. You just got to own it and suck it up. Yeah, I screwed that up, or hey, I don't like that about me. How can I make a better me? You're spot on. And to your point about suicide, veterans are in that same thing. And part of that depression is derived from, either traumatic brain injury or from just PTS. I don't say, post-traumatic stress disorder. I say PTS, syndrome. And that's a topic for another time, but you're absolutely right. That depression is what drives all that. And again, I can't thank you enough for sticking around and influencing people in a positive manner. So thank you for that.
Oh gosh. I mean, my God, it was like when I finally realized that there was a greater purpose for me, that this is all I ever want to do, was meant to do, and the very thing, by the way, I was searching for since I was about 8 or 9 years old. So isn't that interesting, right? That's so in alignment with your similar thread line or storyline, right, of the firemen being rescued. But now I definitely want to have you back, because you have so many incredible words of wisdom. The things.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, and you just exemplify it. And we don't have to be. Knowing doesn't make a difference. It's applying the knowledge through experience that makes a difference. So,
well said. Very well said. Agree, 100%.
Yeah, so we don't have to be the sharpest knife in the drawer, right? The smartest kid in the classroom, because it doesn't make a difference. It's the one who's courageous enough to go and make mistakes and right and look failure in the eyes and go, "Hi, failure. I think I'm going to make you my friend." And and that's really what it takes to persist and persevere. So then how do we get to contact you to hire you for you? Tell us about your business and how people can get more of you, Max Per Diem.
So thank you for asking. So I don't have a website yet, but I'm working on it. I do have an email. It's called maxperdiem1@gmail.com. That's Max Per Diem, all one word, and the number 1@gmail.com. And really, it's a consulting firm, and it's my tagline is "One call gets it all. How may I direct your call?" And,
good one.
And and then the follow on is I put the all in small, the scout in clout and stuff like that. But we handle just about anything from being medical advisors to consults on just about anything you need. And but if anybody's interested, feel free to hit me up at maxperdiem1@gmail.com, and it's consulting in a variety of capacities.
Yes, you also said something about how did you put it? Oh, I'm trying to look. Shoot, I'm blanking right now. But you said
about the keynote speaking, because I do that as well.
Yes, keynote speaking. So go, please plug yourself. Yes, but you said Go ahead.
I do keynote speaking. Right now, I'm a spokesperson for the Fourth Contact, and it just talks about military, or not necessarily, but first responders, PTS, stuff like that. I do sales events for folks, and my big passion is, you heard me say it earlier, is cooking and medicine. So if any of those things interest people, I'd be more than happy to entertain a phone call or come talk about it somewhere.
Oh, yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, here it is. I found it. Translational element.
Oh, translational. Yeah, that's so what that means is I just make things easier to understand. I take complicated stuff and I break it down to simplistic terms. Mm-hmm. And having been in the SEAL teams, and I go into the highest rank you can get, and the highest position you can get, at the 30,000 foot level with all these admirals and generals and stuff, and then I got to go down to the sled dog level, which is the warfighter types, and how do you translate what the admirals and generals are saying down to the sled dog guys is something that I do. I just break it down to common sense approach and just a more digestible way of getting the information.
Yeah, I love that. Common sense approach, right? That's all that really matters for a happy, healthy, fulfilling life. Wouldn't you think so or say so? I would.
Oh yeah, and you've heard it before. Common sense ain't so common.
Bingo. Okay.
My new my mission is to make it common.
Yes, to make it common and to help those searching to have that common sense approach to be living a life. How would you say it? A life of purpose and fulfilled.
You're not always going to be king of the parade or queen of the prom. So what I've learned is success and failure are one and the same. They're imposters. They're both fleeting. They both have their emotions that are tied to them. But once all that ticker tape parade is over with, or the pity party's over with, then what? What are you left with? And you just need to enjoy each of those, because a failure, Henry Ford said, is just an opportunity to begin again and approach it in a different manner. So, yeah, I just make a better version of you, and just life's going to come at you like a prize fight. It's going to come at you hard, fast, and continuous. And you've got to be able to take it as a marathon. Just pace yourself, man. There's time to pick up your pace, and there's a time to just throttle back and go to the Gatorade station and drink something and, okay, catch your breath and move on.
Yeah, like a reset. And
yes.
And the thing that you helped me with today more than anything is that's what I was so drawn to, is your fun attitude. The energy that you exude is this light, fun, enjoy life in the moment. And that's really what it's about, because I have problems with that. And so your whole energy and aura, if you will, is about that. And you also can achieve greatness and great things. Yes?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. You're the epitome of that for me.
Well, I appreciate the comment, and likewise, you give off a great vibe and a great energy, which is, it's easy to be around. It's not a drain on the system. And I think that, I think we've all had that experience, and we've all been there. You just don't have to stay there, We're like, hey, I'm out of it today, or I'm going to be a grumpalina. And not,
a grumpalina. Okay, I have to just disclose this as we're closing. In closing, do you know, you probably don't, but here's a secret, that who I am today is because I trained for it. That we're,
no,
yeah, you have to, yes. So if you say that about me, the training freaking works. We are not kidding. I am a child of chronic depression and suicidal tendencies. I was depressed, unhappy, introspective, and serious. Now, I never spoke, so you really wouldn't go, oh, she's a downer, right? You wouldn't necessarily say she's a downer, but I was down and out most of my life.
I would have never known that.
Exactly. I hated myself, I hated people, and I hated the world, because it made no sense to me. And I am not exaggerating. Because
I'm glad you trained yourself in the manner that you are now. Because you're absolutely lovely to be around.
Oh, thank you. But I'm living proof. I mean, can you imagine? So when you say that, I just got to be real about it. That this was not anything natural or organic. There was none of it even possible. But when I learned how to train for it and kept training, for me to be who I am today, a stand for humanity, a stand for human beings, a stand for people who can relate to all the pain and anguish that I went through. And that is my first line of business, is people. Then we'd have to say it just works. That's all I can say.
Yeah, that's a great testimony, man.
Well, thank you for that.
Better than that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that said, I can't even thank you enough. This was impromptu to where we were just, hey, let's catch up. And I said, hey, let's hit the record button, because you got too much magnificence to share, and let's share. So
yes. Anytime, Karen.
Oh, great. Yeah, because I definitely want to have you back, because we have so many great topics. Thank you. The biggest thing also I got here was train for your weaknesses. Train, and focus on your weaknesses and strengthen those. And when you play with your strengths and then you get to train with your weaknesses becoming your strengths. Now you're just left with strength and strength.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like you said, the training pays off. I mean, Navy SEAL training, same thing. We didn't just start out being the case of war break glass guy. You've got to start somewhere. So, it's crawl, walk, run.
Yeah, I love it. Crawl, walk, run. So that said, people, keep listening and never give up. Don't ever stop or quit on yourself or your dreams. You deserve it. You're worth it. And until next time, what are we going to say here? Okay, max per diem. Max out your life to the fullest. And bam, drop the mic.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much, Steve. And man, you are just like one of my idols. I have to just say, I can't even, I'm so honored to even know you, let alone do a podcast with you, but to have you in my circle, because everything about you is extraordinary and powerful. So thank you so much.
You're very kind. Thank you for your kind words.
Oh, you're so welcome. Okay. Take care, everybody.
All right. Bye, everybody.